Hey everyone, welcome to another recording of the Polite Society podcast. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Your crew tonight is going to be Amanda Suffecool of Eye on the Target Radio, Charlie Cook of Writing Shotgun with Charlie, Charlie's Gungrams, and about everything else. And Rob Morse of the Slowfax blog. And I think it ought to be, instead of Lock and Load with Bill Frady, it ought to be Lock and Load with Rob Morse, sometimes starring Bill Frady. So
it's nice to have friends.
Yes, absolutely. Also, let's not forget about Rob's podcast, the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Getting social media hooked up. I want to remind everybody, if you're watching us on the Polite Society podcast feeds, if you're watching us on the Facebook or YouTube page for Polite Society Podcast, you can comment on those live videos. We'll get those comments right away. If you're watching us anywhere else, go to Twitter, tweet with the hashtag PSPodcast. I switched back to that because PSP, everybody that plays PlayStation tweets with PSP, and I get 50 things that I think may be comments that weren't. So that just distracts me less. But go to Twitter, tweet with PS Podcast, and we'll get those, and we'll get them on the air too. So let me get hooked up on. There we go. And Facebook is hooked up. We are ready to rock and roll. If my team is ready to go, I'm ready to have Mass introduce us.
The countdown clock is accomplished its mission.
Whoops, that ain't what I want. That's what I want, and I want to hit that button to take the countdown timer clock off. And Masada Youb in 5, 4, 3.
Hey gang, this is Masada Youb from the Pro Arms Podcast. I'm here to remind you that our podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network, and I'm going to suggest you do what we do and check out the other podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you are on target and ready to fire.
Always be sure of your target and what lies beyond it.
Hey, and welcome back. This is the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast. We're recording this one on Monday, November the 21st, 2022. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Rob Morse. And on tonight's show, we talk about the Second Amendment Foundation suing New York State so that ordinary citizens can again take a walk in the park while armed.
And I'm Amanda Suffecool, and we will discuss some interesting data from Dr. John Lott.
I'm Charlie Cook, and we'll discuss stealing catalytic converters in Ohio. So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 641 of the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast starts right now. All right, it's Monday night, 6 p.m. in the Central Time Zone, the only time zone that matters, right, Rob? And time for another episode of the Polite Society podcast. I want to go back to our open, and I know it's scripted, and I know Charlie was told to say this, but stealing catalytic converters, not just Ohio, but pretty much anywhere throughout the nation, not recommended. But let's go ahead and start off, Rob. What's been going on with you? You weren't on last week. What's been going on with you since the last time you were on Polite Society, man?
Thank you. I was on Bill Frady's Lock and Load radio show today. I recorded an episode of Self-Defense Gun Stories with our Amanda Suffecool. I dry practiced and took a student to the range, which gave me some live fire practice. I bought someone a bedside rapid access safe as an early Christmas present. I want to check with you guys after the show. I found out that iTunes doesn't accept comments and ratings on my podcast or on Tom Gresham's podcast. And now I wonder why. Amanda, what you been doing?
Huh, that's interesting. I want to know too, inquiring minds and all that. So I spent the day, let's not even talk about the week, but I spent the day today talking between an Ohio senator, Buckeye Firearms spokesman, Faster Saves Lives spokesman, Second Amendment Foundation spokesman. Ohio has Senate Bill 357 in a lame duck session with a senator that has term limited out. And he's trying to push it through, and it is a hot mess. And let me tell you, I pretty much told him that. But I got 40 minutes of a senator's time to talk about this anti-gun bill that he thinks is pro-safety, and it's really not. So they offered me an opportunity to have an opinion, and I have an opinion. So, Charlie, what about you?
Very much like Amanda, it sounds like I have a lot of keeping up to do. I carried every day this week. I had a Utah class this past weekend at Cape Gun Works in Hyannis, Massachusetts. And I have some family members that are becoming new gun owners, and they are asking me all kinds of questions. So I need to steer them in the right direction. And other than that, it has been an uneventful week. Oh, I did put the heat on finally. I am one of those guys like don't put the heat on until November. And it was Saturday when I finally put the heat on because I'm out of the house for 12 hours a day or something every day. So Saturday I was home and I'm like, oh, it's a little chilly. I need more than just a fleece. I got to put the heat on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul, how about you? You're getting ready for a road trip.
I am. Want to mention that after tonight's show, we have the Bullet tomorrow with Rob Morse. The Bullet Wednesday, and joining us on Wednesday is going to be Alex Uli for a special Wednesday edition. And then I'm off. I'm going to be taking a road trip to take care of some family obligations. No show, obviously, Thanksgiving, and then not for about a week after that. So no Polite Society next week, and no Bullets until at least Thursday of next week. We'll see how long it takes me to get back across the hinterlands of the North back home. So that's what's been occupying me, is trying to get this road trip planned, get all my I's dotted, T's crossed, and trying to avoid flying so I don't get felt up by the TSA. So.
On the other hand, I saw your wife trying to plan a trip to the Virgin Islands. So
yes.
You sound like you're going someplace cold, and she's going to the Virgin Islands. But who am I?
We're both going someplace cold this week, and then in February. Yes, I don't know if I've mentioned this yet or not, but if you watch me on the Bullet every day, you'll notice a different background than you see behind me right now. On the Bullet, there's a picture from where I'm going to be staying in the U.S. Virgin Islands in February. I am very pumped up about that. So,
You're going to visit a famous book author,
Yes.
I assume.
I am.
Got it.
Kathy Jackson has invited us to come down, and that has been an open invitation for a few years. The stars have aligned, and we've been able to make everything work. The trip is booked. And so it looks like Valentine's Day, my wife and I are going to be spending in a very warm locale, and I'm not going to complain about that at all.
I think any place other than South Dakota in February is going to be a warm place.
Now, Fargo, North Dakota is not as warm, I'll tell you that right now.
Oh my!
But I think he's going to get felt up by the TSA.
Oh yeah.
It's totally left field here. I can't go through airport security without getting enhanced scrutiny. I don't know what it is. I'm told quite often I look a lot like Walter White from Breaking Bad. Maybe they
it's
think
just they like the color of your eyes there, darling.
But wow, do I get attention when I go through airport screenings? And if I could drive to the Virgin Islands, I would.
Some people have to depend on skill. Paul, in your case, it's just luck.
Gerald, oh my goodness, I got to get this one in. Where's my button? There it is. Gerald over on the Facebook side says, "Sometimes you win." All right, and before we go off to news, because it's going to be a shorter show tonight, we don't have a guest. I want to get this one in as well. Barry, also from the Facebook side, says, "Charlie Cook, I'm crying that Healy won. Discuss."
Yeah, we have we still have an AG, an anti-gun attorney general, but now we have an AGG, an anti-gun governor, and it's she's the one that came out and said anything that looks like an AR is an AR. She came out with her own edict in 2016 where she said you can't have any ARs, and all the gun stores sold them out that day. Then what did she say? This is the ridiculousness of the anti-gun stuff. The 5 evil features of an assault weapon are pistol grip, collapsible stock, flash hider, bayonet lug, and grenade launcher, but it only applies to semi-automatic rifles that have a detachable magazine that can hold more than 10 rounds. So we had someone here that came up with a non-detachable magazine that holds 10 rounds, and you have to flip your AR up if you want to load it. Somebody else came up with a speed loader that holds 10 rounds that you can put right in the ejection port. And anyway, so Maura Healey is our new governor, and
you must be present in the voting booth to win.
Yes.
You must be present in the voting booth?
Yes.
In order to win the prize.
You got to show up and vote. Exactly.
If you don't show up,
right.
You don't win.
I did talk to somebody the day after the election, and he's like, he gave me the whole, "Oh man, I didn't vote. I know my vote's not going to count." And I was like, "This is why you should vote, because legit, I was."
Yeah, look at Lauren Boebert. I mean, what's the number now? Like 500 votes or something?
It was
not
slightly more than that, but not much.
Out of like 200,000 votes. Yeah, something like that.
On election night, they called it for Maura Healey at 8:02, with 0% of the polls reporting. The polls closed at 8 o'clock. At 8:02, they're like, "Maura Healey wins." 0% of the ballots have been counted, and 0% are reporting their votes, but Maura Healey is the winner. You're like, if nobody's got the votes in, how can she? Right, exactly. I need a drink.
Well, and Larry was catching us on the bullet here about an hour ago. Larry says, "Another coincidence theorist." So,
right.
We and Amanda, we were giving Rob Campbell a soft, hard time on the bullet here a little bit ago.
Yeah.
But yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm joining the conspiracy party, and I think I'm gonna join the Daniel Boone party as well.
There you go. The numbers, I just looked it up. Lauren Boebert, it's 554 votes out of more than 300 and almost 330,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
As close as you can get to a 50-50. Well, and I want to remind everybody, let's go all the way back to the bad old days of 2000. I'm sorry, no, it was 2000 and...
No, it was 2000 with the hanging chads?
Yeah, in Florida, when the entire presidential election in Florida ended up being decided by 528 votes, and you can fit more than that, people, on a 747-400. So, yeah.
Yeah, this Boebert race was close. Extremely
Absolutely.
close.
All right, let's go ahead and step aside. Before we step aside to our first break, I want to tell everybody about Self-Defense Radio Network. As you can see there, all your pro freedom podcasts in one place. We're up there. Rob Morse's Self-Defense Gun Stories, Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns. Of course, Eye on the Target Radio, and Riding Shotgun with Charlie are there. Not only can you listen right off the website if you choose to, but there's subscription information for each of the podcasts there as well. So if you're into firearms at all, there's something that fits your interest on sdrn.us. But right now, we are going to go ahead and step aside to our first commercial break. We're going to hear from ACLDN, and we will be right back right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership, and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Massad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Gibbons, Emmanuel Capelson, Dennis Tuller, and led by Network President Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society podcast.
All right, we're back. This is the news segment of the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast. Going to start off with a press release that came out just today. The Second Amendment Foundation has filed a reply supporting its earlier motion for a preliminary injunction in the case of Christian versus Negrelli. This case challenges New York State's ban on carrying firearms in public parks under the state's so-called Concealed Carry Improvement Act. SAF is joined by Firearms Policy Coalition and Brett Christian, a private citizen, who's filed in the U.S. District Court for the Western District of New York. Continuing on, we are asking the court for a preliminary injunction and filed this new motion in support of the original complaint because it is imperative the court step in to prevent enforcement of this ban on carry in public parks, said SAF founder and Executive Vice President Alan Gottlieb. The state's new law bans firearms for ordinary law-abiding citizens in every public park when there is no historical evidence of such blanket bans upon which the state bases its position. One more little bit here. Mr. Christian has refrained from carrying firearms in parks, has even stopped visiting those parks they used to utilize prior to the new law taking effect. He has also refrained from carrying on public transportation and in businesses open to the public because the change in state law has increased the potential for his arrest and prosecution. Since New York's new law took effect, he has only exercised his constitutional right to carry 3 times, while before he was able to carry nearly every day. As Charlie and I talked about just a little bit over an hour ago on the Bullet, this is at least the 4th lawsuit brought against New York. I know SAF is responsible for 2, along with Firearms Policy Coalition. I think Firearms Policy Coalition has one of their own, and GOA has at least one of their own. So there are at least 4 lawsuits trying to take this law down, and I think it's only a matter of time. I think it's going to happen.
Somewhere in show notes, there was a judge on the Second Amendment appeals court. What was it? Sotheby and
Yes.
Sinatra said, look, the New York law is blatantly unconstitutional. Plaintiffs are very likely to succeed in their case, so I'm going to put an injunction on the state law. And a 4-member appeals court said, no, we'll wait till after the case is resolved in the courts. That could take better part of a decade?
I don't think so, but I'm not going to swear against it. It's getting through the trial is going to take several months. Getting through the appeals process could take multiples of that. So.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because in some cases, like McDonald, when McDonald worked its way through the courts, it was like less than 2 years from the date the original McDonald case was filed, because it was filed the day that Heller was decided. And then other cases just take a long, long time. I mean, Heller took 13 years, but McDonald took 2. So go figure.
Yeah.
You know, Ohio just had a case where the judge just refrained from making a decision for more than 3 years because he's still thinking about it.
This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
3 years. It was a lot of, you know, it's kind of that Winnie the Pooh thing. Think. I don't know. I just, yeah.
The only time I ever think, I'm sitting in a place that I hope there are never any pictures taken of me.
Yeah.
like Newman and Seinfeld says, a guy can really get some thinking done in there.
If you turn your phone off, it doesn't take nearly as long.
There is that. DJ Play Nice over on the YouTube side says, sort of reminds me of Carrie Bands on some Bear Grounds.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, by the way, are you thinking of DJ? Are you thinking of the one? Was it north of Monterey, south of San Jose? I want to. It's not San Carlos. Where was that? Gilroy Fair, where the kid crawls under the fence. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, that sounds familiar.
I want to go ahead and shift to our next story, and this again, I said it on the bullet. This is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Saturday night, about midnight, several calls came in to police in Colorado and Colorado Springs, and some guy went into a LGBTQ bar. We called them gay bars when I was growing up, but went into a bar and started shooting the place up. 5 were dead, and
18 are shot.
Yes, including two of the people in there. As soon as this started happening, started attacking the guy doing the shooting. 2 unarmed people started and eventually stopped him, and I guess the guy got the tar beat out of him and was pummeled very badly. Thank goodness.
Well, one of them, I didn't see the story. I heard it as I was kind of moving through, and it said that he was military or former military, as one of the guys who kind of started the "Let's Roll" thing. You know?
Yeah. Well, I know one of the 2 people that took him down there. It was made very clear there were 2 people that stopped him. One of the 2 was shot, and has non-life-threatening injuries. So, slipping into my DGU mentality, I want to say you're never out of the fight until you're unconscious or dead, and good on these people for acting at risk to their lives. But
the interesting part about this story really is the fact that there's a whole lot of stuff not coming out. So this happened Saturday, right?
Saturday night at midnight.
Yeah, Saturday night at midnight. So Saturday night, Sunday morning. So we've had more than 24 hours. We're at 36 hours. I think they still haven't. I mean, you typically see who the person is, what their hometown is, what their high school looks like, all of that kind of, where there's reporters on the street going to, this is the grocery store that this dude shops
Right.
at, you're not seeing any of that. You're not seeing what type of a gun, so is it that the police have been really good at holding the information down, or is, I don't get it, and so I'm waiting for information, and then I think we can comment a lot more. Rob?
Or does the information contradict the media narrative? I
Right
checked. If you're not drinking in the club, you can carry in a bar in Colorado, unless it's posted. So it's not a state law. And my question is, and if somebody who knows this club, please make us smarter. Was this a gun-free zone? Were there signs posted at the door? And if not, up your game. Why weren't you carrying?
Well,
all the designated drivers who weren't drinking that night should have been carrying. Why not?
I do not know whether this place was posted no carry or not. I do know this guy is a frequent flyer. He was known to the police.
Well, that's because he was going to burn down or blow up or bomb his mother's house last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a sweetheart.
So
this guy.
Dana brings up a great point. Another example of red flag not working. This guy,
right.
And red flags never ever will, ever.
Of course. The we all know that known to the police means they've got they either have some sort of prior record with the police or a number of run-ins with the police. And if he threatened to bomb his mother's house, obviously the police would know about this sort of stuff, and they possibly could have done something, but they didn't do anything.
Well, there's this spot where, since we don't have criminal reform, really, and we want to give everybody a second chance and a third chance and a 443rd chance, because last night on my show we did a story about a guy who had 15 domestic abuse arrests on his record, and he was out still and got shot by somebody while he was attacking someone. 15. So when you start to look at that, I am so pro police, it's not even fun. And you look at them saying, okay, the police know him, they know he's a jackwagon, but what really can they do? Where are those lines? How do you do it? And how do you do it in a way that's constitutional, to where you don't scoop up everybody in the try to get somebody that everybody thinks is not quite right? Yet they're not the thought police, and so they can't arrest somebody for something that they didn't do or they hadn't yet done. So it's a conundrum. It really is.
Yeah,
right.
We do not yet have pre-crime police, and so you can't arrest somebody before they've done something wrong. Yeah.
That is one of the profound benefits of a restraining order. It's a no-contact order issued by a judge. Oh, you're within 500 feet of where you shouldn't be. Game over. All done. The police officers have no discretion. Pick you up, take you to jail. You can argue it with the judge from there. So
I'll say this, so you still have to defend yourself until the police get there.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yep. But it gets rid of the, I wonder what we should do with this guy question. That's already been decided.
And by the way, on the YouTube side, and I love this name, Snake Plissken. Good on you, man, for getting that name before somebody else snatched it up. It didn't take long before some ghoulish person, okay, I'm going to name the ghoulish person, Joe Biden, called for more gun bans after that. No matter what they banned, it doesn't take away the fact that America has sick and evil. It's not just America. The planet has sick and evil people in it. No matter what you do, they're still going to be there. You have to deal with them first.
Okay, Snake, I got a question for you. Did this guy? A number of things come to mind. I hope you'll give me your thoughts. Did this guy attack that bar because he had animus against gay people? One reason. Or he thought, gays don't really, there's a reputation among that culture to not like firearms. Was he looking for a gun-free zone? And they delivered. What do you think, Snake?
Or is he a member of that community and didn't get to date somebody he wanted to date?
Yes.
Well, okay, I'll call that animus. I'll call that animus against other gays. Yeah.
Okay.
And really good point here. Really good point. DJ says jackwagon is a technical term.
It's not a crock of cheese.
Should we go on and talk about?
I have to pick my swear words. I'm just saying, I have to pick my swear words. Now, Charlie has tried to open his mouth about 4 times, and we've stomped all over him. Charlie, did you?
So this is where I put my tinfoil hat nice and snug on my head. The election has not necessarily been, it's not over, and the Senate doesn't have the majority they thought they had. Was this something that someone put this person up to so that they could enact more gun control? Right? This is how much I've been hanging out with Rob Campbell.
How, is that single or double layer tinfoil?
Right.
It comes extra thick, some of it.
Yeah, right. Extra crunchy, extra spicy, extra thick, yeah.
Yeah. Let me get a comment in from Dana here. Dana says, I think he called for assault weapon ban after 3 different incidents last week. He would call for one after a machete attack. You're not wrong on that, Dana, because I didn't find out until after 3 o'clock this afternoon, after a lot of searching, that the long gun that this guy had actually was an AR. This morning I would have sworn it wasn't an AR because everybody was reporting it as a long gun, not specifically an AR, which led me to believe, as anti-AR as the mainstream media is, if it was an AR, it would have been plastered all over everywhere. So,
yeah, but the New York Times reported that, which means it could just have been black, or a piece of it could have been black, and then it had to be an AR because, or
right,
it could have been one of those, AK-15s,
Could have been a Kel-Tec. Nobody knows. We don't know yet.
Right. Nobody knows. It's like that old journalist chart that's got every handgun on it, and it says it's a Glock.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
They're all Glocks.
Yeah, they're all
right?
Glocks.
There's a tomahawk.
Right? Oh yeah.
Yeah, Indian Glock. Right.
Right. Wild Bill Hickok was shot with a Glock.
Did you guys see where the AP has now started to roll out to reporters to use terms instead of assault weapons? They are supposed to go to the modern sporting rifles. So it's like the AP is attempting to actually use the correct terminology,
right.
that type of a...
They changed their style sheet, yes.
Yes, they did.
We'll see what happens and why.
Yeah.
I don't trust them.
A couple more comments here.
I think if they start to use our vernacular, then they're going to say, well, look, we have to go after these modern sporting rifles. We have to go after, the modern sporting rifles, the MSRs.
Patrol rifles. Let's start using that so they
take,
how are you going to go after patrol rifles when the police carry them?
Did you see what he did there? I like that. Nice work.
Snake says, regardless of all those variables, he made that decision and people lost their lives over it. It's worse knowing that he was a known person to the authorities prior.
Right. Yep.
Bingo.
And gun websites. The murderer chose the item he did, the place he did, the time he did, with an intent to become famous in the current mainstream media. And I'll say this, and I'm going to go get up on my soapbox here again, and I'm going to actually put myself up on screen so I can do that. And I'm going to say this. You'll never, ever, ever hear that person's name on these airwaves. Period. We don't do that here. Most of the people that are in Second Amendment media that I associate with are the same way. And yet we still, on every news media outlet I perused today to get ready for the Bullet and for Polite Society, we saw the name of this guy again and again and again and again. And I think it's a tragedy. I'm almost willing to call the mainstream media complicit in making this guy famous.
Staying with making him famous, the story that we have up on show notes does have him listed with 3 names.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I'll be back. I'm going to go get my tinfoil hat. Excuse me.
I just hope I'm never known as Paul Blank Lathrop. I'm not going to give my middle name out on the air, but I do have one.
No. It just has to be Lee, because then it's Lee Boy, Malboy, all of those. It has a Lee in there somewhere.
Well,
Paul Lee.
I am thanking.
I think it's Paul. Paul Bob.
Paul Lee.
He wants to move south. Paul Bob Lathrop.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
No, we can call him Paul Lee.
I can see my middle name coming up here. Rob Bob Morse. Yeah. Okay.
Rob Bob.
Don't piss off the man who drives the
Rob
keyboard.
Bob, do you want to talk about Dr. Lott's research?
Rob Bob.
I'm going to talk about whatever you say. You're driving, Doc.
We're having way too much fun with this, aren't we, Rob Bob?
Amanda Bob.
I want to know why this. How come Rob calls anyone else that has Rob's name either Robert or Bob? That's what I want to know. Like, he calls Rob Campbell Bob Campbell. He calls Rob Pincus Robert Pincus. I'm like, wait a second. How can he call anyone with this name something
it's already
different?
Used.
I've previously owned. Dr. John Lott Jr. pointed out that more of us have our carry permits. And this happened at the same time that a record number of states say we don't need a permit to carry concealed in public at all. The COVID panic, technically it's a pandemic, said we should stay home. Now that we can move again, the number of concealed handgun permits has increased sharply. The number is now 22 million. That's it, only a 2% gain from last year. I was hoping for better. People might not tell you the truth if you ask them either online or over the phone if they have a gun. Well, there are good reasons for that. There are reasons people have to say yes even if they don't have a gun, and to say no even if they do. What they can't lie about are permit data. That's pretty hard and fast. The increase in carry permits happened even though 24 constitutional carry states already said they don't even provide data on those who are legally carrying because those states don't need a permit to carry. Now, there's one exception. Alabama adopted constitutional carry last year, the 25th state, but that doesn't go into effect until the 1st of January 2023. What might happen to the numbers of permits if our carry rights were finally recognized in the May issue states? I'm thinking New York, California, Massachusetts, New Jersey. Dr. Lott used Illinois as an example, where carry is very difficult, but after some appeals court rulings, it is allowed. If the same number of people, if people behaved as if they were facing Illinois carry, we'd have an additional 2.7 million gun owners, about a 12% increase, an additional 1 person out of 8 who's carrying, but who's now being denied their rights.
That's great research from Dr. Lott, and I see one outlet that picked that up, disseminated it, and said, well, permit carries are up, but not as much as they used to be trying to point out that it's trending down. And they forgot the fact that, yes, new permits are trending down, but places you don't need them are trending up a lot faster than the permits are trending down. So I want to go to comments again here because we're getting some fantastic comments. Gun website says, as I understand it, back in the day, they used all three names for murderers to differentiate from every other person with a similar first and last name. And yeah. And I'm going to say, if we go off the rails, it's only because our listeners encourage it. DJ Play Nice says, Amanda Ray, get it right, Rob Bob. Or Amanda May.
Amanda May, yeah.
Thanks, DJ.
So I started watching, staying with the names thing here, I started watching the documentary on Netflix on D.B. Cooper. And the reason they called him D.B. Cooper is because Daniel Cooper sounded boring, but D.B. Cooper sounded cool.
Yeah, it sounds mysterious. Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. I somehow my brain is telling me I knew that his name was Dan Cooper, but anyway. Neither here nor there. Next story, and this was predictable when Oregon passed the vote by the narrowest of margins, passed in Oregon to pass 114. Well, firearm sales in the week after the election have exploded. They've gone up fivefold in Oregon since the state passed their anti-gun amendment. Oregon State Police said they were processing about 850 background checks a day, but that was before Election Day. Now they're processing over 4,000 a day. That's good stuff.
Well, they have only till December 8th to do
Yes.
this before they need all the permits and all the other stuff that goes with it. So our friend Derek and the Kids Safe Foundation.
Yep.
He had grant money that he was going to save and play with, not play with, but do his stocking later on in the year, and based on this, he just put in his purchase for a teen firearm safety program. So I saw this post, and the interesting thing is that his number, he was like, our number for processing was in the like 4,000 something. So I don't know if that's a number per day, if that's the number for, I don't know exactly what that number is, if that's the number for that gun shop, but I was like, that's a big number.
That's stout.
Not understanding the scope of where that stuff is, but if you look at those types of decisions that are being made all over the place, you see some of the companies that are supplying magazines or guns that are giving priority to the folks in Oregon so that they can fill as much need as possible before the deadlines. What's really funny is that there are some people who are complaining because they ended up being put in line behind everybody in Oregon. And they're like, well, I placed my order and I should be next in line, whatever that is. And it's like, look, these people are being punished badly. And so the rest of the free America wants to do everything that they can to help them prior to the deadline date when the doors clang shut, if you will.
Well, Amanda, you just said something that's really important. After, what was it, December 7th? And I always thought the day that will go down in infamy, right? You can buy a gun after that. You just need the non-existent Oregon purchase permit.
Yep.
And there's no process in place to do that yet. Here's the thing that bothers me.
The $65 fee and the firearms training by the police only. Yeah, there's a bunch of hoops to jump. But
even if you already have a gun.
Yes.
But the surprising thing is that I read this article, and a lot of people were coming into gun shops in Oregon. And by the way, this gun shop that was the major part of this news article was out of Portland, and the people were going, well, I didn't know this was on the ballot. I'd have voted if I'd known. And I'm going, I wish you couldn't get a gun, because if you weren't awake enough to protect your rights, shame on you. I was going to say something worse than that. Thank you, Paul. I kept us out of Facebook jail.
Crack of cheese.
Thank you. Big crock.
All right. Let's do this real quick. I want to step aside to break. We've got more than enough news to fill at least one more segment, maybe two. Let's step aside to break here. We're going to hear from the good folks at CNJFO, and we'll talk about more news when we come back right after this.
New Jersey is a civil rights wasteland where an unconstitutional law known as justifiable need keeps ordinary citizens from exercising their right to bear arms. New Jersey spits in the eye of freedom, ignores the Bill of Rights and the Heller decision. New Jersey politics are an anti-civil rights bulldozer and a spreading cancer. The Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners, a tax-exempt nonprofit, has a goal to defeat justifiable need, reverse course on all anti-freedom laws, and render aid to other jurisdictions by filing Supreme Court-bound litigation. CNJFO is a beacon of freedom behind the Iron Curtain in New Jersey. Join CNJFO's strong, enthusiastic patriots. Support the Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners today. Protect all our rights and return freedom to the Garden State. To donate or learn more, go to cnjfo.com.
And welcome back to the second news segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. I want to move off to our next story. Rob, do you mind grabbing this one about DRGO?
Oh, sure. Our friends at DRGO, Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership, just came out with a research paper. They released a study saying, quote, there's no association between increased lawful firearm sales and rates of crime or rates of homicide, close quote. The study looked at all 50 states and the 17 years starting in 1999. The article was written by 10 doctors, and it's published in the Journal of Surgical Research. They took data from the National Instant Background Check System, the Department of Justice Uniform Crime Reporting Program, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention web-based injury statistics query and reporting system. I've used all those. They went to the standard sources. The lead author is Dr. Mark Hamill. He's an assistant professor of surgery at the University of Nebraska. He's a longtime gun owner, and before he got his hands dirty being a doctor, he was a law enforcement officer.
And we should say he's not the Mark Hamill from Star Wars fame.
Star Wars, right.
So.
The better-looking Mark Hamill.
Yes, with a better voice.
Has any of you guys gotten your hands on the data from this study?
I've not gone through it.
No.
Yeah, because I'd like to see it. I have not.
I know they'll give it to you if you want it.
Right. I haven't asked, but I just wanted to know if any of my friends already had it, and if they had it, they could share it, and if they don't have it, then I guess we'll ask. But
this is not earth-shaking stuff here. Lawful firearms, people buying firearms lawfully are not the ones that are committing crimes and homicides. Like you don't have to be a doctor. You could be the other Mark Hamill and figure that out.
Well, he hasn't yet, but you know.
He hasn't. I think he's a little. I think he's on the left side. But I mean, really, this is. Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's good to have these studies.
In the water is wet category. Yep.
Yes.
Exactly. It's the Department of the Department of Redundancy Department is where it comes from.
Okay.
And Amanda, there is a text message inbound with the link to the actual. I've got the study up right here.
Yay!
And
okay,
holy
thank you. I appreciate that.
Cow! Yeah. It's. I'm not going to attempt it. It's
big. So
yes.
2 stories back in show notes, we jumped the shark and missed a story that says, "What if we threw a freedom party?" Or did we skip that one on purpose?
No, we did not, and that's a good story. It was scheduled to be covered on Saturday, but I got long-winded. Imagine that.
Once it'll get covered on some Saturday, some week,
or tonight. Contra Costa County and Alameda County in California are getting inundated with concealed carry permit applications. They used to get a few hundred permits over the course of a year. Now, since the Bruin decision, they're getting thousands a month. They say they cannot handle load. And then keep in mind, they issue how many, these are both rural counties in California. Contra Costa County, I specifically looked up for the Saturday broadcast. It is east of Oakland. So it goes San Francisco County, jumps the bay to Oakland County, and then over to Contra Costa. The biggest city in Contra Costa County is 135,000 people. So we're not talking major population. The entire county has a population of less than 1 million. Even so, how many tickets do they issue there on a daily basis, on a monthly basis?
Thousands.
Yeah. If they can process all those, yet they cannot process concealed carry permits. The sheriff of Contra Costa County has hired one more additional person just to handle concealed carry permits. I'm thinking they're maybe 10 or 12 short on what they're adding.
Right.
They need to add a bunch more people.
And it depends on how much time it takes. Let me tell you a story about Ohio here. We had a sheriff who kind of was like, okay, it's the law, it's no big deal, blah, blah, yawn, yawn. And so they had a clerk, and that clerk was processing a concealed carry permit every 10 minutes, so 6 per hour. And so there was this backlog in the county, and it was a pretty big backlog. And he was like, "Well, we're not making any money, and this is costing us, and all of this." So the new sheriff started to ask questions, and they asked a lot of questions, and found out that the tack time was really somewhere around 3 minutes instead of 10 minutes. And so he challenged them. Challenge being a code word for his boot and their keister. And guess what? The backlog is all gone now.
If you like your job, do your job, or we'll find somebody else that will. Is that the kind of challenge that was there?
That's kind of it.
I want to point out something else. There are 40 counties in California that were already shall issues. Now,
right.
I think San Diego is one of the largest. And there, the new sheriff, not a guy who's particularly pro-gun, he goes, why do I need an in-person interview if a guy's just renewing his permit? What's interesting is the honest citizens from those 40 counties, I think the total number is like 52, they can carry everywhere. So it's not as if there aren't concealed carriers already in Contra Costa and Alameda. Mm-hmm. I think they should do what Ohio did, Amanda. Your state solved this problem. I think, and you'll correct me here, if a judge looked at it and said, "Oh, the solution's easy. You can ask the sheriff in other counties to grant you a permit." If only there were an honest judge. And doesn't Ohio do that?
Ohio does it in 2 ways. So in the standard protocol, you can go to the county in which you reside and any adjacent county to it, but you can't go across the state. When we had a big backlog and COVID and some of that stuff, they opened it up and said you could go anywhere. And so the smart counties brought on an extra clerk and process them as much as they possibly could, because it became a profit center for them and a way for the sheriff's department to get additional gear. So with a tack time of 3 per minute, you can do 20 an hour per clerk. You can move through at $75 a crack. You can move some cash through.
Right. That's the unfortunate. I do not like that this is they've got to get money from somewhere, but I don't like the fact that they get it off of granting us what we already have, our freedoms. Well,
we're also constitutional carry, so you don't have to get one. So I'm comfortable with that, because that's a permit that I'm willing to buy to travel to other states who are not part of free America or free-ish America. But
Paul,
it is my choice.
Sorry. Paul, I agree with you that that's a violation of our civil rights. I just want my rights violated quickly.
But I pay for my driver's license too. So
there's not a backlog there, though. They can process that.
It's good point.
But
why isn't there?
But and let me tell you, they're not speedy women. Well, I'm not saying women. Do you see?
Do we have a church ladies conversation coming on?
They're not speedy women or other people.
People, did you see the Halloween costume from the guy at the BMV that dressed as a sloth?
Zootopia, that's genius.
That won the internet. That, whether it's a guy or a gal, but I mean, it's that where you're like, okay, next number. Yeah. So
right.
I have a case of the crank about those folks anyhow, because they renamed me at 58 years old. I'm just saying, they're not on my list.
I'm kind of with Snake. Let's go back to the good old days of being able to buy a gun from a catalog and free up all those law enforcement agencies.
Now you're talking.
I think brewing is brewing, because if you look at history, text, and tradition from 1791 and the fact that serialization and transfers, you could do it prior to 1968. So guess what?
This is complete. Go ahead.
Oh, no. You go off the rails first. I'm going to push you. Go ahead.
Well, this is completely unrelated. At one of the schools I teach at, I teach in the library. And in one of the libraries, there is a book that is called, I think it's The Faces of Gettysburg. And it's pictures of people that were in the war at Gettysburg. And on the cover, there are 4 guys. They're black and white pictures. And there's one guy holding a rifle. So I decided, before the library came in, I decided to flip through this. And as I'm flipping through it, I see a number of people that are 18 or 19 years old that are holding a long rifle. And I'm actually going to that school tomorrow, and I think I might check that out of the library. I don't think the library is necessarily a fan of Mr. Cook. And I think I want to put a book on the little display thing where this is, so she doesn't know that I took one, because we got a long weekend coming up here, and I don't know if she'll notice the book is gone.
So are you saying you're going to check it out of the library, or you're going to check it out of the library?
I'm gonna check it out of the library, I think.
I'm thinking this is kind of one of those movies where you have to, in order to take the idol off of the weight, you got to put another one on the
right.
weight.
And
so are you bringing
exactly
them
because I don't know what to put there, because it's at the bookshelf is this big and there's this much space with books, and it's got a little display thing and it's facing out so you can see it. So if somebody's paying attention,
take one of your Petrolino books, Decoding Firearms.
Right.
Well, and
perfect.
Wait a minute, Charlie. That's the entire library. Is this wide?
No. It's just one shelf. no,
Okay.
it's a small-minded librarian.
It's a small-minded.
It's
But a bigger library.
just that. Right. It's just that that particular shelf has a book that's facing this way when all the other books are facing this way. So if I take it, it'll be obvious.
You got to put something in its place, right?
Right. And I don't know what else I could put in there.
The joy of cooking.
Yeah.
It's a kid's library.
So they get interested in culinary arts at an early age. I mean,
well, the best thing is this: tomorrow's a half day, and no one's going to be there. No one's checked this book out. I've been looking at this book for months, and I go back on Tuesday. I don't even know if the librarian's there next Monday. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and Amanda, are you implying you want Charlie to end up being ran over by a boulder? And Gerald says, Mission Impossible theme playing. Again, it's not my fault the show goes off the rails. It's the commenters. They encourage it.
They encourage it. So here's what I think, Charlie. If I were going to do that and strategically you didn't want to get busted for it, what you do tomorrow is you take one of the books off the shelf and the Gettysburg book and you switch them. And then you take the Gettysburg book out of the shelf the next week.
That is, I think that's what I'm going to have to do, because I wanted to take a look at this. I think it's just pictures of people that were in the, in the war in Gettysburg. And there were people under 21, 18 years old, that had long guns. And I'm like, this might be what we need.
Wait.
It's
not 18
you know what I
years
mean?
old. There was 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds.
Wow.
There's one picture of a guy that's holding a cap and ball revolver, pointing it at his buddy, and his buddy's holding up a knife. And they're sitting there posing for a picture.
Before we go off, I'm just happy to pull this up right now. I'm doing. I don't know if you heard it, but I did a real quick search on Amazon. Guess what? For $16.65 in paperback, you can get the book Faces of Gettysburg off Amazon. And if you go to smile.amazon.com, you can a portion of the proceeds will go to support the Second Amendment Foundation. So,
and then you don't have to go to jail, Charlie.
Yes.
Well, listen,
Charlie. Next time you plan a theft, you and I let's plan it on a nationally syndicated radio show, right? I think that's just.
I think the statute of limitations is passed, but when on
something you haven't done yet. Okay.
No. When I graduated college, right in 1992, when I graduated college, I was a security guard at a community college, and there were several books that I checked out while I was working, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I can't believe that they trusted you with security.
Look, they were just as stupid as I was.
Do you guys follow Professor Mark Smith? He was at GRPC. He's got a YouTube channel.
The Four Boxes.
Four Boxes
Sure.
Diner.
He's the Four Boxes, yeah.
Right. And he's talking about, as you called it, brewing. The guys who want to restrict our rights are really standing on their heads. I think we could start a business, probably out of California, that sells the researchers that do anti-gun research, drugs and psychedelics, because they've got to come up with some crazy stuff to come up with those ideas. I'm reading we shouldn't let you have a gun because I'm going, well, look at that. That's actually amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One last comment, and we're going to go ahead and move on here, but let me get this comment up here. Smeggy says, you can always claim satire. I didn't really mean it. I was going for humor. So
it's not like I was planning on bringing the book back.
Sure, Charlie.
And Gerald says, background check will be delayed when you buy a gun for comments like that. Now you set yourself up, bud.
So I think that this is the Polite Society podcast Babylon B version is where I think we are today.
Speaking of which, did you see that they got reinstated on Twitter? That's friggin' awesome.
As did the Broderick, what was her? The Bill Clinton's
accuser.
One
yeah.
of Bill Clinton's. What is it?
Yeah.
Starts with a J.
Anita Broderick.
Anita Broderick.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
is the
of course,
Babylon
he hasn't logged in yet, but so has President Trump.
Yeah, and the Babylon Bee has been. I think they've been brought back too.
Yeah.
So they're slowly bringing back.
Are they paying $8 for their blue check?
There's a guy that I monitor on there because I'm in that you ain't never seen no shit like that, right? Kind of thing, and I want to see how some of the liberals think. And every time I watch him, I'm like, "You're kidding me, right?" And so it's hysterical watching him try to work the liberals up to a froth just to keep them engaged because they're quitting Twitter left and right, and he's like, "We've got to stay and we've got to fight and we've got to stay and who's doing this?" And it's like, dude, don't you ever get tired?
Did he? Is Libs of TikTok back up yet?
I do not know. I know they were talking about it, but I don't know if they're back yet.
I remember, again, we're way off in left field here, but Babylon B has put out some hilarious videos of former Twitter employees going to apply for real jobs. If you haven't seen those, you've got to go watch them. Just outrageous. Charlie, you want to talk about the Dean Weingarten story?
Absolutely. Our colleague Dean Weingarten published an article on AmmoLand on Friday. There was a recent case where a felon in West Virginia was charged for having a firearm. That was ruled unconstitutional. That was ruled constitutional, excuse me. What was ruled unconstitutional was charging him for having a firearm that had the serial number removed or modified. The U.S. attorney filed the appeal, the judge's ruling on serial numbers. I have not read if the Second Amendment Foundation or Firearms Policy Coalition or the Gun Owners of America will file briefs supporting the judge's ruling. This is the first time that serial numbers were required. The first time serial numbers were required in a law was passed in 1968.
And that law was not based in text, history, and tradition.
But let's talk about when felons were allowed to, because when you go back to 1791, right? If a felon was arrested, they took their horse, they put him in jail, and when they got out, they got all their stuff back. Not their horse, because somebody already ate it. But other than that, they got all the rest of their stuff back. So here's your saddle, here's your gun, here's your, whatever, and you could start walking or steal another horse, something. But so when did they take away a felon's right to, after they've served their time and paid their debt to society, to limit? Well, they limited voting and they limited that. So was that 1937?
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it was just about the time they stopped putting people in prison for the crimes they committed and keeping them there. When parole got to be a thing, I think that's when you stopped getting your full rights back. I don't know exactly when that happened, but
but that would be the question, because I believe that judge is going to be found also wrong because of Bruin, because of that. But
well, Amanda, you bring up an interesting question. So I guess in the way courts work, as you can tell, I'm not a lawyer. It's really obvious. So there are only a certain number of topics that are being brought up. In this case, what is a firearm that has an obliterated serial number or no serial number on the frame? Is that violating the law that was established in 1986? Is that law constitutional? What Amanda brought up is another extension, which was, wait a minute, felon in possession. That wasn't in place back in the founding. So if they open this case up, I wonder if those additional arguments can be added. Since I'm not an appellate lawyer, I don't know.
That's a question for Wednesday's Bullet when I'll have Alex Uli joining me. I don't mean to go into plug mode, but...
Yeah, you better give him a heads up because it's going to take a little research.
Yeah. So.
This is really interesting. There was a guy in Western Massachusetts that was arrested. I believe he was a felon, and he had some 80% lowers. And I think I remember seeing something that said that people were wondering if it's illegal for him to have a gun with a serial number on it, but not illegal to have a gun that doesn't have a serial number on it. And I don't know if this is the same thing, but it sounds really familiar. It sounds similar, excuse me.
Yeah. Let's do this. I want to be out of here at the bottom of the hour. We've been on, it's now 11 after the hour, so It was
1968 is when since the Gun Control Act of 1968, anyone convicted of a felony, whether or not it involved violence, loses his or her firearms rights.
Ooh.
So if serialization was in 68, as was the felony.
Let me put this one up. For what it's worth, Kentucky became the first state to establish criminal disenfranchisement in its Constitution of 1792.
Missed it by a year. Darn it.
Well, the good news is, and awesome catch, gun websites.
Yeah.
The question is, was it widespread? Because a single jurisdiction behaving in a certain way isn't necessarily the preponderance of states. Amanda, your mouth.
But it's history, text, or tradition, 1791.
Ooh, look
Missed
what you
it
did
by a
there.
year.
I see that.
Yes. All right, let's do this. We're going to step aside.
Pete.
We're going to step aside to break. We're going to come back. We're going to do our defensive gun use segment because I still really want to get out of here at the bottom of the hour. As always on Mondays, I sit in this chair too long and my backside starts hurting. And I just don't have any Tylenol around here right now, not that they'd take effect in time. Anyway, so we're going to step aside to break. We're going to hear from JPFO. When we come back, we'll do our DGU segment and we'll wrap the show up. We'll be back with all that right after this.
In 1928, Germany required its citizens to register their firearms, making possible Hitler's 1938 Nazi Weapons Act, disarming all Jews. Now ask yourself, what is the real consequence of registration? All in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, America's aggressive civil rights organization. jpfo.org.
Hey, and welcome back. This is the Defensive Gun Use segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. These discussions are not legal advice. Some of us are trainers. Actually, tonight all of us are trainers, but this is not formal training, and you need formal training. The Defensive Gun Use segment is intended as information and entertainment only, not as training. As always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions and not those of any sponsors or other affiliation. Who wants to take this Ohio story?
Ohio.
It's the first DGU.
So Harrison Township, Ohio. So Rob is trying to say me, but my problem is that then the rest of the time you guys get to see this because I've got like one eyeball at it. But okay. So
yeah.
All right. So here we go.
Go ahead, Charlie.
In Harrison Township, Ohio, one of the common crimes going on right now is catalytic converter theft. With the advent of the cordless reciprocating saw, it is easy for a crook to slide under a car and in 2 minutes cut the pipes and be gone. A homeowner called 911 to report someone attempting to steal the converter from his vehicle. He confronted the thief, told him to stop, and warned him he called 911. His phone was in his hand. The criminal approached and attacked the homeowner. The victim was armed, and the attacker ended up with a round in his leg. At approximately 12:45 p.m., the deputy sheriff showed up for the call for the shooting. The homeowner is cooperating with authorities, and the would-be thief was taken to the hospital. The sheriff reports that he will be charged with an attempted robbery. The Montgomery County Prosecutor's Office said that if there was a scuffle, if there was a scuffle, the shooter may have been acting in self-defense, and the state's, quote, stand your ground law becomes important. The law was signed by Governor Mike DeWine in 2021. The sheriff's investigation is critical in helping the prosecutor determine how to proceed.
This wasn't stand your ground. I think they dug some lawyer up who mumbled the words. The defender was backing away. It was the attacker who was advancing toward him. Whether he had stand your ground means he could have stood there next to his car, and when the guy got out and stepped toward him, bang. This defender was backing up. That's the problem with being the defender. As you back away, people run forward faster than you can back up. By the way, that's why you want a lawyer to fill out your report, because he's going to point out those things. Your Honor, I was backing away. The attacker closed the distance to me. When he grabbed me, I shot him. Also, it's why you want training, because if there was video of here, let's put it to you this way. Amanda, we've all seen lots of students give them a block of wood. This is your cell phone. Make a call. And you advance on them, and they won't drop that wooden phone to empty their hands and defend themselves. Police officers have to be taught to drop the clipboard when the thug is advancing on them. So, take a class, learn to drop the stuff you don't need so you can defend yourself.
Yes.
Oh, they did a whole big study about that, about where people when they're slipping and tripping and falling, instead of jettisoning what's in their hands to catch themselves, they clutch it tighter as they fall with it or on it. So there is that. A couple other things. Mike DeWine, our governor, not Mike DeWine, our listener on our show, but Mike DeWine, our governor, did indeed sign the Stand Your Ground law because he was sort of almost forced into it. He was backed so far into a corner as a Republican governor who's not really pro-gun at all, but he signed some really good pro-gun bills solely because he had no other option. So there's that. The second thing in this story is when the bad guy is coming up to the homeowner, the car owner, he is coming at him with a Sawzall in his hand. Have you ever seen what they do and how fast they cut? So it's as dangerous as them having a knife, right?
And I want to get a comment here real quick. We're going off the rails again, I can already tell. Snake, it goes back to your checking the book out. It's easy to steal them. Oh, really, Charlie?
Not for me, I'll tell you that right now. I don't even know how to work a Sawzall. I could barely say reciprocating saw.
You didn't.
No,
Oh,
exactly.
Geez. See?
Didn't Charlie say a reciprocal saw? Yeah. That's one over saw for you. Yeah.
So there is that. It's amazing what's happening with the with catalytic converters everywhere right now. We had a girl at work that her car was 4 days old when they stole her catalytic converter.
And the people that are doing it are, again, frequent flyers. These are people that are.
Yeah.
The thing is that there's a spot where the guy who receives that catalytic converter, I think, has some culpability to this, because if some dude shows up and says, "I've got 47 catalytic converters in the back of my car," where did you get them, and what garage are you affiliated with, and what condition are they in? Because catalytic converters don't commit suicide; they are murdered. So they stay in your car and work in your car for 100,000 miles for original equipment, and then every replacement is got enough precious metals on it for another 50,000 miles. So that's the designed the design for the replacement
lifetime
of those, and so if they're seeing brand new ones, that's what Columbo called a clue.
Yes, absolutely.
And it doesn't take anything elaborate. It's going, by the way, I'll cut you a check right now. Give me your ID so I know how to make it out. And the video just took a picture of you. All done. Turn that over to the cops. You're right.
Exactly.
I'm so on your side, Amanda.
Yeah, and the amount of precious metals in these catalytic converters, we're not talking these people are getting rich. They're getting tomorrow's fix is what they're getting.
Toyota.
Yeah.
Well, the amount of precious metals in them really are fairly expensive. The amount of money that they're getting for them,
bingo,
on the other hand, is not. So, yeah. So, because you do know that I spent a dozen years manufacturing catalytic converters, right?
I know you worked at a company that did stamping. That's what I know.
Oh, that was airplanes. Yeah.
Okay.
No, this is.
Usually, Dana says usually they steal them at night. This was around noon. Dana, by the way, is the guy that writes our DGUs, so he would certainly know it. I believe it was in the story that it was at 12:45 in the afternoon. Yeah.
Okay, so he didn't get points for brightness either.
Yeah.
Maybe daylight savings time threw him for a loop.
He's not an early riser, Amanda.
It's because it was harder at 1:45.
Let me get. I gotta get this one in. I gotta get. Sorry, it just snake again. I was more implying the cook is Charlie. Anyway,
I can't say it either.
The cook is straight.
So, a serious comment. Isn't it a sad show of the times how the crime has become more violent and frequency of these crimes going on?
Mm-hmm. They don't value their own life. They don't value your life. That's really a lot of what's going on.
Yeah, that's 100% correct right there. We're getting down towards the bottom of the hour here. We're gonna forego the final break because all our paid ads have gone. I'm gonna start off with Rob as I usually do as we start this segment. Rob, what have you been doing in media that you want to promote, man?
Self-defense gun stories. I would. You know what? You guys inspired me. The stories in self-defense gun stories that I went through with Amanda, that inspired me. So I put them together, and they're at Slow Facts. They run from the ordinary and common to some things. What, Amanda? It read like an action movie script. Check it out. It's called A Week of Ordinary Heroes. Has anybody got some information about what John's been up to lately?
I don't, but I do encourage you to go to his blog, wrong blog, Lathrop. Go to his blog, onlygunsandmoney.com. John could not join us tonight, but if you want, especially if you want to know about anything going on with the shenanigans at the NRA, that is my first source.
Yep. Amen.
Is John's blog. And then you know what? Yeah, we're just gonna go on. We did have two, but I'm only gonna go with one because my backside hurts. So we're gonna forego the final DGU. Let me get this comment in about gun websites. Pete over there. For what it's worth, most catalytic converters are worth more than $300 and take 2 minutes to remove from a parked car. Tech can and will end these fad crime. Watch. Enough people getting them stolen, and maybe what I think honestly is going to stop them quicker is you notice your car jacked up and all of a sudden, where'd that jack go? And you have a flat criminal. That's going to stop them.
Dead in their tracks.
Dead in your tracks.
Greg over on the Facebook side said, is Discover card still the best card to use for firearm purchases without being hassled, Mr. Lathrop? I haven't heard that Discover has gone to the new...
Dark side?
Yeah, I haven't heard that they've gone to applying the special merchant code for gun stores. Doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but I haven't heard about it. So I would say yes. I would say Discover is still probably your best way to go.
I'm going to say with cash is probably the best way to go. The best way to go.
Or barter your hog, take your hog to the gun store, say, I was going to butcher this, but here you go. Can I have that Glock, please?
Right.
Oh, I thought you meant your Harley Davidson.
Well, there could be that too. But who would want a Harley Davidson when you can get bacon? I mean, come on.
Oh, good point. Thank you.
Charlie, dude, what do anything you want to promote about media that you've done or got coming up?
Yeah, so tomorrow I have an episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie coming out. My passenger is Dustin Hayes. He is from Red, White, and Badass Brewed Coffee, and he is the last show that I filled out in the San Diego area when I did my little California tour this summer. Honestly, I'm looking at how long it's taking to export my video. It's either going to be a really late night or a really early morning. But I still want to get the show up for tomorrow, and that's what I got going on. I believe Writing Shotgun with Charlie is going to be coming out on the Armed Lifestyle magazine. It should be coming out either this week or next week. And the person that I revisited and talked to again was Michael Sedini from Want to Talk America. So please check that out when it comes out.
Nice.
The one coming out tomorrow, is that nice short one you were talking to me about earlier?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
All right. And just to keep this so it's not an inside joke, I believe Charlie and I were talking off the air and it was like a 57-minute.
Yes, 57 minutes. I thought about cutting it short, but I'm like, my computer's not working with me, so... it's going to be 56 minutes long.
All right. Amanda...
People are going for drives, so they can
and hopefully not watching video while they do.
They can download the podcast.
Amanda, anything you want to plug, anything going on?
So I just have Eye on the Target Radio on Sunday nights. I'm revamping Women for Gun Rights for Friday nights. I'm still in the segment of what exactly is that going to look like in the long term. And as you know, I am running for the board of directors for the NRA, so keep that in mind when you see your ballots in. I would expect to see them sometime in January.
Yes, and absolutely. I'm hoping that I haven't got the last few issues of, I believe it's the American Rifleman is the one I get from the NRA. I haven't noticed the last few come in. I'll have to give them a call, see what's up with that, because I do not want to miss that January issue. All right, well, on my end, I want to remind everybody that next week there will be no Polite Society podcast. I have to go to Idaho to take care of some family issues. I will not be back in time to do it. So catch the bullet tomorrow, catch the bullet Wednesday, and then I'll be back in a week or so. So that's what I got. So that does wrap up another episode of the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast. For Amy, Dana, Tracy, John, Susan, Amanda, Robin, Charlie, and Rob.
Until next time.
Stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.
All right, I want to get one more comment in here as we head off to shut everything down. Pete over at Gun Website says they want us to think we live in the worst crime in history, the worst economy, not the worst black drug market, not the worst money laundering, not the, you get my point. A lot of it is misdirection. And Charlie had thoughts about that on the bullet about maybe a mass shooting. So if you didn't check that out, go check out the bullet from earlier today. In the meantime, I got to stand up. I got to shut this down. Folks, have a great night. We'll see you in 2 weeks for the next Polite